Rain poured from the sky like the clouds were crying. The road was almost empty. Windshield wipers worked hard to keep the view clear, but it was still hard to see. The man behind the wheel was tired. He had just finished a long shift at the warehouse and still had to pick up groceries before going home to his little daughter. He wasn't rich. In fact, he barely made enough to cover rent and food. But he always tried to do the right thing, even when life didn't make it easy. His old car heater was broken and the windows fogged up. His coat was thin and his boots had small holes in them. Still, he drove on, thinking only about getting home, maybe reading his daughter her favorite bedtime story. As he drove around a bend, his headlights lit up a car on the side of the road. One of its tires was flat. A woman stood beside it, holding a phone, looking frustrated and cold. Most cars just drove past her. No one wanted to stop in the rain. He looked at the time. He was already late. He could have kept going. But something inside told him to pull over. He rolled down his window. "Need help?" he asked, his voice tired but kind. The woman looked up, surprised. Her hair was soaked. She nodded slowly. "I can't get the spare out, and my phone signal's gone." He parked his car, grabbed the old toolbox from his trunk, and walked toward her. The rain was ice cold. His hands were already numb. But he smiled anyway. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," he said. She didn't say much, just watched him quietly as he worked. His hands fumbled with rusty tools, slipping on wet metal, but he kept going. His back ached, his fingers stung. Still, he didn't stop. "I don't have much to thank you with," she said softly. "I didn't ask for anything," he replied, tightening the last bolt. She looked at him for a moment like she wanted to say more. But instead, she stepped back and nodded. "Thank you," she said. He gave her a tired smile. "Stay safe." And just like that, she got into her car and drove off. He stood in the rain for a moment, catching his breath. He was drenched, cold, to the bone. But he felt something warm inside, not from the weather, but from knowing he helped someone who needed it. He got into his car, turned on the engine, and let out a long sigh. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since morning. He looked at the clock again. He was late, and his daughter would be waiting. He drove off, hoping she hadn't fallen asleep before he could kiss her goodnight. Back at home, his daughter was already in her pajamas. She had drawn a picture of a superhero and said it looked like him. He laughed and hugged her tight. "You're the real hero," she whispered. "You always come home." He tucked her into bed, told her a story about a kind man who helped strangers, and kissed her forehead. Outside, the rain still fell, tapping softly on the windows. He sat at the kitchen table, peeling off his wet clothes, coughing slightly from the cold. He looked at the small pile of unpaid bills and let out another sigh. He had nothing extra to give, but he gave anyway. And somewhere across town, in a tall building with warm lights and soft carpets, the woman he helped was sitting on a couch, staring at her hands. She had changed into dry clothes, but her thoughts were still stuck on that cold roadside. She had been offered help many times before. But not like that. Not from someone who expected nothing. Not from someone who looked so tired, yet gave so much. She looked at her phone. She had taken a photo of his license plate without him noticing. She smiled slightly, her eyes filled with something more than just gratitude. This wasn't over. Not for her, but the man didn't know any of that. He was just happy he got home. In time to kiss his daughter goodnight, and sleep came slowly, but with peace in his heart. The morning came with a heavy cough. The cold from last night had caught up to him. He wrapped himself in a blanket and sat at the edge of the bed, trying not to wake his daughter. His chest felt tight and his head was foggy. But there was no time to rest. He had to get ready for work. His little girl peeked out from her blanket and rubbed her eyes. "Daddy, you don't look good," she whispered. He smiled through his cough. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just a small cold." She wrapped her arms around his waist and didn't let go for a while. That hug gave him the strength to keep moving. He made breakfast with whatever was left in the fridge, 2 slices of bread, half an egg, and a spoon of peanut butter. He gave most of it to his daughter. He had water and half a slice for himself. That was enough. He dropped her off at school and rushed to his job. The warehouse was freezing in the mornings. His body ached and his cough wouldn't stop, but he kept lifting boxes, sorting packages, and moving crates like he always did. His coworkers noticed he looked worse than usual. One of them said, "Man, you should be home resting." But he just smiled and kept working. Rest was a luxury he couldn't afford. After work, he sat alone on a bench outside the warehouse. Rain was in the air again. He looked at the sky and closed his eyes. He thought about last night, about the woman and her quiet eyes. She had looked tired, but not in the same way he was. There was something different about her, like she was holding back a truth. He didn't expect to ever see her again, but somewhere else in the city, she was still thinking about him. She sat at a polished wooden table in a quiet office, papers in front of her, untouched coffee beside her. Her assistant knocked on the door, bringing updates. She nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. Her thoughts kept going back to that soaked, shivering man changing her tire with frozen hands and a kind smile. She had known people with money, people with power, people with charm, but no one had ever helped her so purely without asking who she was or what she could offer. No one had said, "Stay safe," like they truly meant it. She picked up her phone and opened a file. Her security team had already looked into the plate number. His name, address, and work details were now in front of her. She hesitated. Was it too forward? Would he think it was strange? Still, she couldn't forget that look in his eyes, so exhausted, yet calm. She wanted to do something. Not out of pity, but out of deep respect. That evening, while he was helping his daughter with homework, a knock came at the door. He opened it, and there she stood. She looked completely different, dry, neat, confident. She was holding a small bag and smiled gently. "I hope I'm not bothering you," she said. He blinked, surprised. "You ... You're the one from the road." She nodded. "I just wanted to check if you were okay. You didn't look well that night." He stepped aside and let her in. His home was small. The couch had a tear, the carpet was old, and the lights flickered when too many appliances were on. But it was clean and warm with love. His daughter peeked out from behind the wall. The woman smiled and knelt down. "Hi there," she said kindly. "You must be very smart." The girl giggled and ran back into the room. They sat for a few minutes, sharing tea he quickly made with the last tea bag he had. She noticed the cough, the tired eyes, the nearly empty kitchen shelf. She placed the small bag on the table. "Just a few things. Soup, medicine, and some snacks for your daughter. I hope you don't mind." He looked at the bag, then back at her. "You didn't have to, really." She gave a soft smile. "You helped me when no one else did. Now I just want to return a small part of that kindness." He nodded, unsure of what to say. The warmth in the room wasn't just from the heater. It came from the unexpected presence of someone who cared. After she left, he opened the bag. There were not just groceries, but also an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "If you ever need anything, please call me. You're not alone." And beneath it, a number. No name, just a number. He held the note in his hand for a long time. He didn't know it yet, but that number was about to change everything. 3 days passed. The cold had gotten worse. His cough was deeper now, and every breath felt heavy. But he still went to work. He had no choice. Bills didn't wait. His daughter needed food. Rent was already overdue, even if his body was screaming. For rest, his heart wouldn't allow him to stop. On the way home from work, he sat on the bus, head resting against the window, eyes half closed. The world outside was blurry from rain. His clothes were still damp from the leaks in the warehouse roof. He didn't notice the black SUV slowly following behind the bus on quiet streets. When he reached home, he found his daughter drawing a picture of a house with a big garden. She told him she wanted them to live in a place like that one day. He smiled and kissed her forehead, hiding the pain in his chest. As he was boiling water for soup, another knock came at the door. He wasn't expecting anyone. He opened it slowly. And once again, she was there. The same woman, wearing a coat this time. Holding a paper bag in her hand, she smiled, calm and warm. "I brought some homemade soup. Thought it might help your cough." He was speechless for a moment. "You didn't have to come again." "I wanted to," she said, stepping in. She looked around the small living room. The same flickering light, the same couch. She noticed the thin blanket folded on the chair and the cough medicine bottle, nearly empty on the table. She placed the soup on the counter and turned to him. "You helped me when no one else stopped. Now I'm here to help you." He looked down, embarrassed. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," she replied gently. "It's appreciation." His daughter came out again and hugged his leg. "She's the soup lady?" the girl asked with a smile. The woman laughed softly. "Yes, I guess I am." They all sat together at the table, sharing the soup and some bread she had brought. The man hesitated at first but slowly relaxed. Her presence didn't feel forced. She wasn't judging. She listened when he talked about his work, about his daughter, about how hard things had been since his wife passed away 2 years ago. She listened quietly, only nodding sometimes, her eyes never leaving his. She wasn't just hearing him, she was truly listening. As the girl fell asleep in the other room, the man walked her to the door. "You're kind," he said. "But you don't have to keep doing this. I'll be okay." She looked at him with serious eyes. "I know you will. But kindness shouldn't be one-sided. Let someone help you too, just this once." She walked away without another word. He watched her go, confused and thoughtful. The next morning, he found something unusual outside the door. Another paper bag. Inside were fresh groceries, vitamins, and cough medicine. At the bottom of the bag was another small envelope. No money, just another note. "You reminded me what real strength looks like." He didn't know whether to smile or cry. That evening, he showed the note to his friend at work, who took one glance and froze. "You know who this is from, right?" He shook his head. "Just a woman I helped change a tire." His friend took out his phone and pulled up a news article. There, smiling in a photo next to schoolchildren, was the same woman. She's the head of the Unity Foundation. That group that gives food and housing to single parents, jobless veterans, even pays off medical bills. That's her. She's famous. The man stared at the screen, shocked. "But she didn't act famous." "Exactly," his friend said. "She's known for doing things in secret, showing up where help is needed without cameras. That's how she finds people who don't ask but truly deserve it." The man went home that night in silence. His mind was spinning. She wasn't just a kind stranger. She was someone powerful, someone respected, someone with the means to change lives. And yet, she had come to his small house, sat on his broken chair, shared his tea, played with his daughter. He opened the first note she had left again and stared at the phone number. He picked up his phone. He dialed. It rang once. Twice. Then her voice answered, soft and familiar. "I was wondering when you'd call." He took a deep breath. "Can we talk?" he asked. She smiled on the other side. "I was hoping you'd say that." What he didn't know was this call would be the beginning of a new chapter he never expected. The next morning, he dressed in his best clothes. That didn't mean much. His shirt was ironed, but the fabric was old. His shoes were polished, though the soles were worn thin. He wanted to look presentable because she had invited him downtown, to her office. He still couldn't believe it. His Daughter hugged him before school and said, "Don't be nervous, Daddy. You always tell me to be brave." Her words stayed with him as he took the bus into the city. The building was unlike anything he had ever seen. Glass stretched to the sky. Security guards stood at the doors, and people in suits moved quickly in and out. He almost turned around. But then he remembered her voice on the phone, gentle, warm, encouraging. He walked inside. The receptionist greeted him and asked his name. When he gave it, her eyes lit up. "She's expecting you. Please follow me." He was led into a spacious office with tall windows overlooking the city. There she was, sitting at a simple desk with no sign of wealth except the elegance in her presence. She stood up and smiled like he was an old friend. "You came," she said. "I almost didn't," he admitted. "This place. It doesn't feel like my world." She shook her head. "Kindness belongs everywhere. Sit, please." They talked for a long time. She told him her story, how she had grown up in comfort, but had always felt something missing. She said she wanted to know what life was like for people who had to struggle, who had to work twice as hard just to survive. "That's why I was out that night," she explained. "I wanted to see real life, not through numbers on a report, but through my own eyes. And then the tire went flat, and I met you." He listened, trying to take it all in. Her words didn't sound rehearsed. They were real. She wasn't just a woman with money. She was someone searching for truth. "You could have let me handle it myself or just driven away," she continued. "But you stopped. You gave your time, your energy, and even your health, not for reward. Not because you had extra, but because it was the right thing to do. That means more to me than you know." He lowered his eyes. "I don't know what to say. I'm just an ordinary man. I'm not special." She leaned forward. "That's where you're wrong. You are special. People like you keep this world alive. Quiet heroes who no one notices." But I noticed. The room fell quiet. He felt his throat tighten, unsure of how to respond. For so long, he had carried the weight of his struggles alone. To hear someone say he mattered, it touched something deep inside him. She stood and walked to a cabinet. Pulling out a folder, she placed it on the desk between them. Inside were papers, forms, and details. "My foundation helps families, especially single parents. We offer support, stable jobs, housing assistance. I don't usually get involved personally, but with you, I want to." He shook his head quickly. "I can't take handouts. I want to earn what I have." Her smile deepened. "Then earn it. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering an opportunity. You'd work with us handling supplies, organizing events, helping people the way you helped me. You'd be paid fairly with benefits, and you'd have more time with your daughter." His chest tightened. It sounded like a dream. Too good to be real. He thought about the warehouse, the long shifts, the pain in his body. He thought about his daughter, drawing pictures of houses with gardens. "I don't know if I belong in a place like this," he whispered. "You belong wherever kindness is needed," she answered firmly. "And kindness is needed everywhere." For a long moment, he said nothing. His eyes wandered to the window, the city buzzing below. His heart was torn between fear and hope. She didn't pressure him. She simply said, "Take your time, think about it. But know this, you've already made a difference in my life. Now I want to help you make a difference for others." He left the office with the folder in his hands, feeling heavier than any box he had ever carried. But this weight was different. It wasn't just responsibility. It was possibility. On the bus ride home, he looked around at the tired faces of workers, the worn-out clothes, the quiet sighs. He thought, what if I could help them too? When he got home, his daughter ran to him, laughing. She didn't see the tiredness in his eyes anymore. She saw something new, something brighter. And though he hadn't made a decision yet, deep down he knew his life was about to change forever. The folder sat on the kitchen table for 2 nights. Every time he walked past it, His eyes lingered on the bold letters of her foundation's name. He wanted to open it, but fear held him back. What if he failed? What if he wasn't enough? On the third night, his daughter climbed onto his lap as he sat staring at the unopened folder. "What's that, Daddy?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Something that could change our lives." She tilted her head. "Change is good, right?" He hugged her close. "Sometimes change is scary. But yes, it can be good." Her little fingers opened the folder for him. He laughed softly. "I guess you decided for me." Together, they looked at the pages filled with opportunity. The next morning, he called her. His voice was shaky but steady enough. "I want to try. I don't know if I'm ready, but I want to try." Her voice on the other end was warm, full of hope. That's all I needed to hear. The first day at the foundation felt like stepping into another world. Bright hallways, welcoming smiles, and people who believed in helping strangers. He was introduced to a small team. His job was to manage supplies for food drives and coordinate deliveries for families who had nothing. It wasn't easy. The workload was heavy and the systems were new to him. But unlike the warehouse, this work didn't drain his soul. It filled it. Every box he lifted meant food on someone's table. Every form he filled meant relief for a struggling parent. Days turned into weeks. His cough faded, his energy grew. He started coming home earlier, and his daughter noticed. She would run into his arms, excited to hear stories about the people he helped. "Did you save someone today?" she'd ask. He always smiled and said, "I did what I could." The woman he had once met in the rain visited often. Sometimes she came with her team, other times quietly, just to check in. They shared more conversations over tea, this time in his office at the foundation. He found himself telling her things he had never told anyone. His fears, his struggles, his hopes for his daughter. She listened, always patient, always kind. Evening, she asked, "Do you realize how much you've grown?" He frowned, confused. "I'm just doing my job." She shook her head. "No, you're changing lives. The same way you changed mine that night. You thought you only fixed a tire, but you reminded me what real kindness looks like. That's why I believe in you." Her words sank deep. For the first time in years, he began to believe in himself too. Months passed. His life looked different. Now he wasn't rich, but the bills were paid on time. His daughter had new shoes and a warm coat for winter. They even started saving a little each month, something he never thought possible. One Friday afternoon, he picked her up from school. Earlier than usual. She ran into his arms, surprised. "Daddy, why are you here so soon?" He smiled. "Because now I can be." Her laughter filled the air as they walked home together, hand in hand. He felt lighter than ever, like the weight he carried for years had finally lifted. That evening, they sat on the small couch, eating pizza, her favorite treat. She looked up at him with bright eyes. "You're happy now," she said. He nodded slowly. "Yes, sweetheart. I am." As he tucked her into bed, he thought about how far they had come. A flat tire on a rainy night had led to all of this. A simple act of kindness had opened doors he never even knew existed. Outside, a car was parked quietly on the street. She was inside, watching the small home glow with laughter and light. She didn't go in this time. She just smiled, knowing she had done what she came to do, not to rescue him, but to remind him of his own strength. He had given her faith in humanity. She had given him a chance at life. And together, though they lived in different worlds, their paths had crossed in a way neither would ever forget. The rain that once poured down on a broken road had turned into sunlight on a new beginning, and the man who thought he was ordinary discovered that sometimes ordinary kindness is the most extraordinary gift of all.